To make up the main table, I invite His Excellency the eminent State Assemblyman Vicente Lopes, the State Assembly Majority Leader, and on this occasion representing the Governor of the State of Amazonas, Dr. Eduardo Braga. I also invite Madame Ferial Sami, General Director of the Association for the Cohesive Development of Amazonia, ADCAM, who is being honored here today. I invite His Excellency, the eminent State Assemblyman Sinésio Campos, leader of the Workers' Party and author of this initiative. I invite His Excellency André Lopes Lasmar, Procurator of the Republic of Brazil, representing of this occasion the Federal Public Ministry. I invite His Excellency José Barroncas, Municipal Vice Secretary of Human Rights, representing the Mayor of Manaus, Dr. Serafim Correia. I invite Flávio Dutra, representing of this occasion and the Federation of Industries of Amazonas, FIAM. I invite His Excellency Coronel Fernanberg Maués de Freitas, representing the High Command of the Military Police of the State of Amazonas. I invite His Excellency Raimundo Nonato Lopes, former State Assemblyman and presently Mayor of the city of Iranduba. I invite His Excellency, the eminent State Assemblyman Sinésio Campos, leader of the Workers' Party and author of this initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, assembly persons, dear invited guests, as a man of faith, I hold that the concession of the title of the citizens of Amazonas should be bestowed on persons who dedicate a large portion of their lives to their fellow human beings, who mark our history not only by their words, but by concrete actions independently of religions, political or ideological beliefs, persons who can contribute in a special way to the restoration of human and family dignity and rescue youth from the tentacles of juvenile violence and dependence on drugs through education and professional orientation. For this reason, ladies and gentlemen, the concession of the title is justified by the services which Madame Ferial Sami has performed in favor of Amazonas, helping numberless persons through the program and projects of her Association of the Cohesiveness Development of Amazonia, ADCAM. It is a non-profit organization and a public utility. Its mission is to promote the well-being and prosperity of the people of Amazonas, based on universal principles through quality education and fructifies and human development and through the transformation of society. Though born in Iran, Madame Ferial Sami has lived in Amazonas for many years. She did her higher studies here and maintains a long role of service to the community, in particular to the more needy persons. The lady who today is decorated by the authority as a citizen of Amazonas, already as a Brazilian in her heart, is presently General Director of ADCAM, the organization which carries out its activities in the Amazonia with the seriousness of commitment, promoting social and education well-being for the poorer classes and who come to it. Graduated in pedagogy and in the administrative of human resources, Madame Ferial is a compassionate person who by visits and participation in seminars, in Brazil as well as abroad, seeks to acquire experience, innovating models and partnership for the construction of a better world. Among the many actions performed in favor of our state, I wish to point out the participation of Madame Ferial in the moments, organizations and articulations of our civil society in favor of citizenship and for fundamental rights. She is a founder and member of the Forum of Children and Adolescents in Manaus and on the State Council for the Social Assistance. She is on the Council for Human Development, on the United Nations Deliberating Councils for Schools in Brasilia, as well as on the Regional Councils of the Baha'is of Amazonia, the Forum for the Eradication of Child Labor. She has worked as a voluntary teacher of children in Salvador and in Peru, where she spent part of her life and participated in the planning of a school in Arequipa and established a new era nursery school in Guara, near Brasilia. The association ADCAM was established in the 1980s for the purpose of offering social and educational support to the families. The association ADCAM was established in the 1980s for the purpose of offering social and educational support to the needy families, principally in the suburb Zumbi dos Palmares on the eastern side of Manaus. Its principles were based on those of the Baha'is, eliminating all types of prejudice and promoting harmony among religions, science and reasons, universal education, equal opportunities and rights for men and women, and the reduction of distance between rich and poor. As regards the Baha'i faith, Madame Ferial has worked in defense of the dignity of citizenship of persons who profess the Baha'i faith in Iran, where they are persecuted and disrespected by Iranian authorities to such an extent that our Brazilian congressmen were asked to take up the cause of those who dedicated themselves to the world peace of human fraternity. In face of this love which Madame Ferial has for this land, for her lifelong dedication to bettering the life of Amazonians, spreading love, peace and prosperity, I will present you all with a text so that you can know what exactly is the work of the Baha'is. Witnessed the birth of the organization when I was studying at the Federal Agro-Technical School of Manaus. I saw born a group of volunteers who in that dense forest where no community, Zumbi dos Palmares, yet existed. Since Antonio Elixo was the only community, yes, I saw born from the hands of Madame Ferial a nursery school which cared for the most needy little children. Whoever passed along the Cosme Ferreira Road in Alexo saw ADCAM near the area called Castanheira. It was a nursery school but also offered grade school and agricultural activities to persons who lived nearby. ADCAM came to my attention because I was studying agriculture in 1982. It is true that everyone talked about the need for schools in the area. And during that mandate of Gilberto Mestrino, and with some few private investors, a small high school was inaugurated. It was the Baha'i group, however, that carried the idea forward, and today ADCAM is made of the Tahira College, the Mazrul Vacation Institute, and the Rural Political Institute of Amazonia. In fact, all this represents investment of technology and the partnership among organizations which today centralize family structuring, support of youth groups, and for elderly and library open for community. ADCAM interacts with the larger community based on the principles of the Baha'is, not making distinction with the Catholic persuasion of religions persuasions. Let me tell you a story about Madame Ferial when she was 18. She entered a local school telling of her faith at the same time giving a few candies to children. When the authorities discovered this, she was expelled as if she were a person offering something unworthy to the children who clung to her skirt. When she arrived home, she was determined to leave her country and dedicate her life to help people for love of her neighbor. There can be nothing more unjust than to be rejected over a question of dogma, nor anything more admirable than to leave your country to bring love to the other people. Thanks be to God, Madame Ferial came to Amazonas and may have adopted the Baha'i principles of life. Madame Ferial, here you have friends. And I was talking to Dr. Lasmar about a university forum, drawing up a document delivery to the Iranian embassy stating that petroleum is an asset, but the Iranian people are their greatest asset. We have support them with our attitude against discrimination because of the color and race, and that this Iranian lady has given outstanding service to the Brazilian people of the Amazonas. Let them know that we welcome Iranians or persons of any country who come in with human solidarity. We could not but make this act of homage. This homage should say to the Iranian government that Madame Ferial, that young lady expelled from school where she intended only love, we embrace and cherish now with all fraternal love. These are many justifications, Mr. President, and I thank the embassy which approved this title of citizens of Amazonas. To this dear Iranian lady who has given us so much. And here we begin our campaign so that the Baha'is be respected not only in our state and country, but also in Iran where many live under the lash, subject to a regime now engaged against a superpower, the United States. Over the production of nuclear weapons, we are against wars, arms and violence. We want to move this world towards love, fraternity, and mutual caring. We make use of this opportunity to hope that all people over the world will prosper and respect minority rights.
I invite all present to rise to witness the bestowal of title of Citizen of Amazonas on Madame Ferial Sami, from the hands of His Excellency Assemblyman Vicente Lopes, representing the Governor of the State, Dr. Eduardo Braga. We will now show a biographical video about Madame Ferial Sami.
The life of all of us has significant moments, but Ferial Sami Farzan is one whose whole life has had significant importance. Born in January 1953 in Iran, Ferial received from her parents an education based on the solid principles of search for the truth, elimination of every kind of prejudice, universal education, and the qualities of goodness, justice, and solidarity. This formation guided all of her thoughts and actions. Of all the Baha'i principles, the one which she embraced from adolescence was preoccupation with orphans and with the poor. Several times she was forbidden access to visit Iranian orphans because she professed Baha'i. At the age of 18, Ferial lost her father in an accident, more cruel for the family because he left his wife with 4 daughters. Later, Ferial married Parvez Farzin. What brought them close together was the same religious proposal and sentiment to serve others. It was these convictions that inspired the couple to leave their homeland and live in Peru. At the time, Ferial was pregnant with her first child. Though difficult to leave her mother and 3 sisters, the desire to serve was stronger. 1 year later, her arrival in Peru, Ferial lost her mother and was responsible for the care and education of her 2 younger sisters. During this period, Ferial's sister married and remained in Iran, far from her beloved family members. In Peru, Ferial had her 2 children. In 1979, after seeing the documentary Greenlight and the visit of a Matu Baha to Amazonas, there arose in Ferial the desire to serve in the Amazonian region. After 4 years in Peru, she traveled to Brazil, living for 5 years in Brasilia and working in the area of education. In 1984, the family arrived in Manaus in answer to an invitation from the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'i of Brazil. The Baha'i wanted some Baha'i families to initiate a social economic project in the Amazonian region and establish ADCAM, Association for the Cohesive Development of Amazonia. With the implementation of ADCAM, many challenges, successes, and responsibilities were demanded from the couple due to the many projects created and carried out. One of these projects in the life of Ferial and of ADCAM was the Linda Tournaire home, which sheltered 300 abandoned babies and who lived with the couple for 7 years. What was notable in this shelter, besides love, was the constant educational vision regarding the formation of the children, and not on principles of mere eventual assistance. Very soon, other projects were initiated by ADCAM, always derived from the needs of the community of the east side of the city where ADCAM was located. Now, due to Ferial's efforts and incessant desire to serve, ADCAM has started various educational and social programs to attend diverse age brackets. Children, preteens, young people, adults, and the elderly. The programs can be summarized in the Maswar Vocational School, which attends persons from nursery care to high school, community extension with its projects called Programs for Preteens of 220 students in various educational activities, and the Group for the Elderly, with its some 70 participants in manual, therapeutic, and seminar activities. Also, there is the Rural Polytechnical Institute, located in Aranduba, which takes education to more than 9 communities. The Maswar Institute of Technology, offering basic and technical courses at the professional level. And finally, a Tahri College, with its course in pedagogy, a pioneer in the east side of Manaus. The Tahiri College gives its students the opportunity to enter an institute of higher studies. Parallel to all this work, Ferial never ceased to study. Open to new skills, she graduated in pedagogy and administration. She could be characterized as a teacher by conviction and as an administrator by vocation. Ferial is a member of the following institutions: National Council for the Rights of Children and Adolescents, the National Forum for Children and Adolescents, State and Municipal Council for Social Assistance, member of the Council for Human Development, among others. During these years of service, Ferial was decorated with the following awards: Honorable Mention, Quality Amazonas 2005, World Citizen, among others. Out of a spirit to learn, Ferial has visited 22 countries to learn about other social economic projects in the hope of setting up exchange programs. What always infused her actions and her life were her constant and intense desire to serve, as well as her unconditional confidence in divine blessings. Her confidence and service found their inspiration in the writings of Baha'i, in the valuable support of her husband, and in the example of her parents. ADCAM became her instrument to carry out her service and bring to life the principles which she always promoted. Her husband, Parviz, was ever at her side, inspiring and guiding her decisions, always at her side as a safe harbor, as well as an intellectual, spiritual, and emotional stay. Ferial has managed more and more to transmit her example of service to the collaborators of ADCAM, to her family members, and to her many friends. Grateful for the admiration and love, Ferial leaves all with the following message based on the wisdom of Baha'u'llah. He who dedicates himself to the service of all humanity is a true man.
I now call upon Madame Ferial Sami, General Director of the Association for the Cohesive Development of Amazonia, ADCAM, the person we honor today, our newest Amazonian citizen.
Greetings to all present. I'm sorry I cannot thank you one by one. I apologize for my different accent in speaking Portuguese. I am always being asked, where are you from? I was born with the Iranian nationality, am now a naturalized Brazilian, a citizen of the world. But I feel myself to be an Amazonian. But from now on, I can say, I am an Amazonian. I have the title to prove it, and I am very happy. Thank you very much. I believe this is an historical moment, not only in Amazonas, but really historical for the world, full of so many prejudices. This gesture of accepting a woman from Iran, a Baha'i as a member of this community, a citizen, is very significant. This shows there is no prejudice here, not of sex, of nationality, nor of religion. For this, we must thank God, when in many places persons are suffering because of these prejudices.
Quando muitos lugares estão sofrendo por causa de estes tipos de preconceito.
I have no words to adequately thank this House, this President,
A todos os deputados,
all the Assemblymen, and in particular, my dear friend, Dr. Sinesio. For over 20 years, he silently and with care has watched over us, always at our side, and then suddenly, without our expecting it, this award, this present. My most sincere thank you, Dr. Sinesio, and to you, and to this House.
Muito obrigada a esta casa. Eu estava pensando estes dias.
I have been thinking lately, remembering a lot. I want to tell only one story of my life.
Eu lembro quando tinha 6 anos.
When I was 6 years old in Iran, Baha'i children of my age, on Friday afternoons, go to a class called morality class.
A gente vai para
I was on the way with a little friend when a group of older children, 10 and 11 years old,
primeira vez na
came by
eu senti que não
on their bicycles and threw stones at us and called our sacred religious symbols disrespectful names.
meninos
For the first time, I felt I had no real liberty.
com bicicleta estavam
We 6-year-olds arrived at home crying.
jogavam pedra,
I told my mother, "Mother, why don't you go out and fight with them?" She took me in her arms, laid my head against her breast, and with tears in her eyes, said,
mamãe me pegou
"Sweetheart, don't bother with it."
no peito dele.
But how? By your good action, you show that your religion is love,
Não se preocupa.
goodness,
Eu falei, como?
and pardon.
Mas com ato você mostra que seu religião
When I grew up, I imagined how my mother must have suffered, not to be able to defend her daughter.
Mas quando eu cresci,
She saw her 6-year-old child being stoned
pensei
and had no right to defend her.
que não podia defender seu
And that was how my life was for 20 years in Iran.
apedrejavam sua filha de
As
6
Dr. Sinasio told you,
tinha direito de ir e defender
I
sua
wanted to help the orphans
tudo bem.
when my father
Assim
died.
foi minha vida durante 20 anos no Irã,
In Iran, orphans are children
quando o
whose
último
mothers are single women or born out of wedlock.
ajudar órfãos.
The child is looked on as a sinner,
Muito amor a estes.
born unclean,
E no Irã,
and for this,
os orfanatos,
they are maltreated.
as crianças que são de mães
When I was not allowed to visit the children, I said to myself,
criança que é de fora
I can't live like this.
é olhado como pecador. A criança é nato de sujeira.
And I left the place crying, though I was pregnant with my first child, Naim. And because I was so distraught,
Quando não me
I
deixaram,
ran through a red light in my car.
falou, não me deixaram.
When I arrived home, my mother made me promise I would not go to the orphanage while I was pregnant
Chorando, estava
for the
grávida
sake
de
of
meu
the
filho
baby.
Naim. E de repente percebi a
I promise, but you must promise
passando o semáforo.
you will not be sad if I leave Iran to carry out my dream.
Você me promete
You may leave, my darling, she said.
orfanato.
May God protect you.
Bom para seu filho. Não é bom para a mãe grávida. Eu falei,
It gives me great joy,
mas você
and I am
também
proud
não
to
fica
speak about my
triste
children.
sem sair de Irã.
My husband and I raised our children
Minha
in the
família
company
pôde ir.
of abandoned children who needed shelter.
E eu tenho
They lived with us
alegria
and were raised together.
de falar meus filhos, eu e meu marido.
Seeing their smiles was my reward. Here, I had the liberty to do this.
junto com outros crianças
I am thankful
precisavam
for the consideration
moramos
which I have received here,
criar.
for the love I have received from the Brazilians,
Crianças
from the people of Amazonas,
podia fazer isso. Aqui tinha essa liberdade. de
from the
fazer
government, from all who joined us.
isso. Agradeço
At this moment, I have two emotions.
este amor que
One
todos,
is happiness.
todos brasileiros, todos amazonenses,
The other
de governo, sempre
is gratitude
todos amigos,
to God,
poder realizar.
to all of you,
Por isso, este momento
to my
foi
husband,
sentido forte.
to my children, to my brothers and sisters who accepted this life with us,
Agradecer a todos
to you
meu marido,
who welcomed us.
minhas irmãs que aceitaram esta vida junto.
All this is a great honor,
Agradecer a todos vocês
which brings happiness,
que me acolheram.
but also a certain sadness.
Uma honra, mas me
Many members of Baha'i in Iran are persecuted and can never participate in such a thing as this, because we believe that to love God, we must love our neighbor, as Jesus Christ taught us, as Baha'u'llah, Muhammad, and Buddha taught us. We only love God when we love our neighbor.
amamos a Deus quando amamos a próximo.
Thank you.
Agradeço.
Thank you very, very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, guests, friends, noble fellow assemblymen, the initiative of the eminent Assemblyman Sinésio Campos